Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Zen Center. So welcome.
Thank you. First of all, is there anybody who is allergic to incense? Yes? Okay. 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 In that case, I won't offer incense. But I would like to make a bow to the Buddha before we start. I've always admired people who can speak extemporaneously without notes, but I am not one of them. So once again, good morning, and thank you for having me here. I'm always very grateful when I'm asked to speak someplace because it requires that I look a little bit more deeply than perhaps is usual into my own practice. And because to share that with other people, I have to examine what's really going on with me. And oftentimes when I speak, I have some sense of who the people I'm speaking to are. In this case, I don't really know. So what that means is that some of you may be scholars and practitioners of Buddhism who know a great deal more than I do. And some of you may be here for your first time. So I apologize if any of you find anything that I say simplistic and obvious, and I apologize equally if it seems abstruse and completely over the top to the rest of you. So maybe 2 or 3 of you will hit it right on the mark, or maybe not. So anyhow, in December of this year, in early December, I was invited to go to the Austin Zen Center, Austin, Texas Zen Center, where a friend of mine is the priest, and they were having their first sesshin. Sesshin is a 7-day meditation intensive, and the December one ends on the day that we celebrate the traditional anniversary of the Buddha's enlightenment. So this is a big deal. And I was invited to go down there to help them put together their first sesshin and to be the head cook, which actually turned out to be the only cook. But, in our Soto Zen tradition, which I'm a part of, work is a very intrinsic part of our practice. We don't make a great deal of separation between work or our daily lives and our more formal meditation practice. So in order to prepare for this job, although I have cooked for many sessions, I decided to reread the Tenzo Kyokun. The Tenzo Kyokun was written by Dogen Zenji. Dogen Zenji was a Japanese monk who lived in the 13th century and who traveled to China, studied there, and brought with him to Japan the Soto Zen tradition, from which I come. And he wrote extensively on practice and Buddhism. And one of the things he wrote was called the Tenzo Kyokun, which means instructions for the head cook. So the Tenzo is the head cook. So I was invited to Austin to be the head cook, the Tenzo. So in order to prepare myself, it's considered a teaching position, by the way, sort of the same as the head of the meditation hall. So in order to prepare myself, I reread the admonitions that Dogen had written for us almost 800 years ago. And I found that they were so pertinent to all areas of my practice that I wanted to talk about using this text to talk about what Dogen said. Now, this is not about meditation per se. It's about taking the mind of meditation that we develop in our meditation into the rest of our lives. Okay, so it's very practical in some ways for those of us who, all of us actually, who live in the world, and not just perhaps in a mountain monastery someplace. So I'm just going to pick out little things here and there from the text, read them to you, and then give you my take on them. He says, Ryo Yung of Baoneng said, "Use the property and possessions of the community as carefully as if they were your own eyes. The Tenzo, the head cook, should handle all food he receives with respect, as if it were to be used in a meal for the emperor. Cooked and uncooked food must be handled in the same manner." I'm told, though I haven't read it myself, that in the Rule of St. Benedict, which is one of the earliest writings governing Christian monasticism, that St. Benedict says that the pots and pans in the kitchen are to be handled with the same respect as the holy utensils on the altar which receives the body and blood of Christ. And, in our meal ritual, in the Zen tradition, we often talk about, we have a line in the chant that talks about the purity of the three wheels of giver, receiver, and gift. So the gift, then, is that which intimately binds the giver and the receiver, just as the perception is that which binds the subject and the object. So it's all one event. So when Dogen is talking about handling the teacups, the property of the community, he's talking about an essential oneness. It's not the word I want, actually. Connectedness. That the object and the subject are bound through the act of perception. That's one way of looking at it. And this is a way of looking at the world which allows the world to be subject, as opposed to divided into the isolated subject relating to isolated objects. So there's a continuity, and subject and object here are seen as points on a continuum rather than separate entities or separate events. And this is what encourages us, this understanding, this way of looking at it, at the world and at ourselves and at our place in the world. This is what encourages us to practice gratitude and respect. These are the two sort of the two poles, or not the two poles, but the two essential parts of our practice, gratitude and respect. And they come together in a bow. Further on in the text, Dogen Zenji writes, "Both day and night allow all things to come into and reside within your mind. Allow your mind and all things to function together as a whole." So, let's read that again. "Both day and night allow all things to come into and reside within your mind. Allow your mind and all things to function together as a whole." So this is basically the same thing. What he's saying here is to allow, to let go, to get out of our own way. So we don't impede the world. And not impeding the world means to not, to the best of our ability, not to place our expectations, our demands, our interpretations on things, but to allow each thing, each person to be as it or he or she is. To acknowledge the essential continuity between self and other. And he also says, if we can find it. When making a soup with ordinary greens, because these are the instructions for the head cook, do not be carried away by feelings of dislike toward them, ordinary greens, nor regard them lightly. Neither jump for joy simply because you have been given ingredients of superior quality to make a special dish. By the same token that you do not indulge in a meal because of its particularly good taste, there is no reason to feel an aversion toward an ordinary one. Do not be negligent and careless just because the materials seem plain, and hesitate to work more diligently with materials of superior quality. Your attitude toward things should not be contingent upon their quality. Your attitude toward things should not be contingent upon their quality. A person who is influenced by the quality of a thing, or who changes his speech or manner according to the appearance or position of the person he meets, is not a man working in the way. So what he's talking about here is value, how we value things. In the world normally as we go through our lives, we value things somewhat more highly and somewhat less highly. I don't know. A diamond is more valuable, I suppose, than a lump of coal, or the president of the university is more valuable than a street person, something like that. But what he's inviting us to do here is, what he says is that a person practicing the way is somebody who sees absolute value in each thing and in each person. And of course, absolute value is the same as no value at all. If we place each thing on the footing of absolute value, each thing is treated equally. For a short time, I studied tea ceremony, formal Japanese tea ceremony. And what they tell you is that when you're making tea, sometimes you go in and out of the tea room, and you carry things in and out of the tea room. One of the things you carry is a large container which has the wastewater in it. And it can be, kind of heavy. Or you carry a small teacup. And the instructions are to carry each thing as though it weighed the same. So we give ourselves equally to each thing, to each person. So this is not so easy. It goes against everything we know and everything that's ingrained in us. But this is where meditation comes in. In meditation, we're given the opportunity, if we choose to take it, to treat each thing as though it had absolute value. Each thought, each emotion, each part of our body. And as we develop this mind of meditation, as we carry it into our daily lives, we are allowed to, if we choose, to experiment with this. So the meditation hall, this room, we can think of as a laboratory. And by extension, we can think of our lives as a laboratory. Meditation is not about something other than this body and this mind. It's about me. It's about you. It's about using the body and mind as an experiment to find out what works. It's about developing a very scientific attitude, actually. So the experiment that Dogen Zenji is suggesting here is to treat each person and each thing as having equal weight and equal value. And we can do that. We can do it for a moment, we can do it for an hour, we can do it for a day, and, see what happens. And if we don't like the results, we don't have to do it anymore. Let's see, what else does he say here? Yes. Handle even a single leaf of green in such a way that it manifests the body of the Buddha. This in turn allows the Buddha to manifest through the leaf. This is a power which you cannot grasp with your rational mind. It operates freely according to the situation in a most natural way. At the same time, this power functions in our lives to clarify and settle activities and is beneficial to all living things. Handle even a single leaf of a green, a piece of chard, a lettuce leaf, what have you, in such a way that it manifests the body of the Buddha. Some of you may know the story of the Buddha and Mahakasyapa. Mahakasyapa was one of the early disciples of the Buddha, and it was to him that, at least in the Zen tradition, we say the Dharma was handed on. He was the Buddha's immediate successor. This is a nice myth. And we have no idea of what really happened. But the story is that the Buddha came in front of the assembly of monks to give his lecture. And instead of saying anything, he picked up a flower and smiled. And in the congregation, Mahakashyapa smiled as well. And the Buddha knew that the Dharma had been passed to Mahakashyapa. So this is what it is to pick up a single leaf of greens and manifest the body of the Buddha. In some place else, I believe in Dogen, he says that we must be able to construct an 18-foot tall golden Buddha out of a single blade of grass. And this is seeing the absolute value in everything, or if you prefer, the absence of value in everything. At any rate, we have the opportunity to play with the idea that everything is off the scale. What would happen? I heard somebody talking the other night about her anguish about not being able to measure up, and I found myself wondering how she would feel if she just let go of the calibration. This is what constructing the body of a Buddha from a single leaf of grass is. And on page 14, similarly, do not judge monks as deserving of respect or as being worthless. Let's just say people. Do not judge people as deserving of respect or as being worthless, nor pay attention to whether a person has been practicing for only a short time or for many years. Without knowing where to find our own stability, how are we to know where someone else would be most stable? If the standard with which we evaluate others is incorrect, we are likely to see their good points as bad and vice versa. What a mistake to make. There may very well be differences between those who have been practicing over many years and those who have just begun, or between those gifted with great intelligence and those not so gifted. Even so, all are treasures of the Sangha. The Sangha is the community of practitioners. Though someone may have been mistaken in the past, he may very well be correct in the context of things now. Who is to say whether someone is a fool or a sage? So, when we judge each other, when we judge ourselves, we're applying this calibration again. We're denying ourselves and each other absolute value. And the operative the way I'm trying to operate now these days, I'm trying on the idea that everything I know is wrong, or at least severely limited. And when I do that, it helps to relieve my willingness to judge. And actually, I really do believe that most of what I know is wrong. It's based on I had a conversation this morning before coming over here with a friend of mine, and we were talking about an incident that happened between us that caused some friction. And her version of events and my version of events of this 2.5 minute moment were completely different. It was just amazing. And maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. But if I cling to my version of events and she clings to her version of events, who's right? And when we do this, when we judge this way, when we cling to our own version of events, we cut off possibility, we cut off potentiality, we judge and limit. And this in itself is a species of murder, of killing. The first precept, as you know perhaps, is that a disciple of the Buddha does not kill. This does not mean just shooting people or taking a machete to people or stomping on butterflies. This also means cutting off, denying the potential in each of us, in ourselves and in others. So a disciple of the Buddha does his or her best not to do that. it also, this sticking to one point, this one version of who we are, or who each other are, ungrammatical, denies the basic insight of Buddhism, which is that the Buddha said that one of the three marks of conditioned existence is that there is no abiding self to be found. So when we stick to the idea of who you are, who I are, this is sticking to the idea of the self as an unchanging essence. But actually, if you think about it, and if you experience it, it's the reality of our changing, insubstantial, non-fixed self, which is our manumission, which is our freedom, which is our liberation. Only if we change, only if we constantly change, is transformation possible. And so some days we are a sage, and some days we are a fool, and it varies moment to moment. And there is no there that doesn't change. And Gertrude Stein agrees. Further on, he says, in all the many monasteries located on the various mountains I have visited in Song China, the monks holding the respective offices worked in their capacity for 1 year at a time. Yet they always maintained and exhibited the same attitude as the head of the community, applying that attitude appropriately to the time and circumstances. So, of course, what he's saying here is that even though these guys only held their positions for a short time, they held them with the weight and responsibility as the head of the community who had oversight over all things in the monastery. The three aspects of this attitude are to see that working for the benefit of others benefits oneself, to understand that through making every effort for the prosperity of the community, one revitalizes one's own character, and to know that endeavoring to succeed and to surpass the patriarchs of past generations means to learn from their lives and to value their examples. Now, this is a pretty important statement, or three statements actually. The first two statements, and I'll read them again, to see that working for the benefit of others benefits oneself, and to understand that through making every effort for the prosperity of the community, one revitalizes one's own character. So these first two ones are about the two poles of practice, cultivation on one hand and surrender on the other. Okay? So we cultivate the person by working for the benefit of others and making every effort. So this is the pole of cultivation. Okay? We try to observe the precepts. We try not to lie, to practice right speech, to practice right behavior, not to hurt other people. This is cultivation. And cultivation we sometimes also bring to our meditation. We make some effort to sit somewhat still. We make some effort to be concentrated in our minds. We make some effort. So this is the cultivation side. And it is very important. It's one of the two balances of our practice. The other side, though, he addresses as well. Okay, let's see. Working for the benefit of others benefits oneself. Making every effort for the prosperity of the community revitalizes one's own character. Okay, so this is the side of practice which is surrender. Surrender is what I surrender when I work for the benefit of others is my own idea of small, selfish self, unchanging, the greedy self, the needy self, the self that lives in isolation and fear. Okay? When I work for the prosperity of the community, whatever that means, whatever the community is, whether it be, my monastery in the mountains of Song China, or this group, or whatever, my family, my city, my country. This is letting go. This is surrender. This is realizing that which is I is larger than my needs, my psychology, my very limited body and mind. This is the surrender part of practice. And this is also very important. The third thing he says, as the attitudes that one should develop and maintain, is to know that endeavoring to succeed and to surpass the patriarchs of past generations means to learn from their lives and to value their examples. Well, on some level, when we first read this, it sounds both arrogant and strange. How do we surpass the enlightened masters of the past? I mean, isn't enlightenment sort of an absolute, right? I mean, can somebody be more enlightened than somebody else? Maybe and maybe not. And it also sounds a little arrogant sometimes to think of surpassing the masters of the past, surpassing your teacher, surpassing Dogen Zenji, for a matter of fact. But I think what he's saying here, actually, is that the challenge, the way we surpass those in the past, is by continually making it new. Continually making it new. Finding new ways to enact and to embody in our own lives the Dharma, the teaching, and to provide Dharma gates, entryways into practice for others. And, what worked in 13th century rural Japan may not work so well in 21st century urban San Francisco. So the effort that he's calling on us to make here is to discover how constantly to renew the Dharma, to renew the expression of the Dharma. The truth of the teaching is unchanging, but its expression is constantly changing. And this is the challenge that we're given here. So once again, this is, we're challenged to be scientists and experimenters in the realm of liberation. And a little bit further on, he says, be very clear about this. A fool sees himself as another, but a wise man sees others as himself. This is also echoed in a very important Zen teaching called the Song of the Jewel Mirror Samadhi, in which it says, you are not it actually is you. So once again, he's encouraging us to experience the world as subject, as by neither objectifying the self nor objectifying the others. Where do we begin? Where do we stop? Always we have to ask this question. And one way of looking at this is to see ourselves, and this is an experimental thought. We can try it on, we see what it does, we discard it if it doesn't work. But one way to look at ourselves in this way is as a sort of tidal wave of causes and conditions. We inherit all of our own past karma, all of our own choices. In the Dhammapada, which is one of the early Buddhist scriptures, it says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. But not only that, all that we are is also all that our parents have thought and enacted, and their parents, and our cultures, all the way back to Mother Eve. So we inherit not only our personal karma, not only inherit is the wrong word, we consist of not only our personal karma, but our familial karma, our cultural karma, and anybody who's traveled abroad knows how culturally conditioned we are. You go to a different country and people act differently there. You come from a different country and, people act differently here. We're very conditioned. So practice, the challenge of our practice is to see this, and it's actually swimming upstream, against the tsunami of our past karma. And we try to practice in this moment. And, one of the ways we do it is to observe very closely what's going on here. What's the difference? What's the connection? For example, the words that I'm speaking and the words that you're hearing, okay, where do they come from? We could say that they start in my mind, whatever that is. Thinking makes chemical changes in my brain. The neurons fire to make the mouth move, the tongue move. The the breath comes out, the sound comes out, and as the sound comes out, it goes through the air, it reaches your ears, your eardrums vibrate, it makes changes in your body. My words make changes in your body, and my words make changes in your mind. And, where is the word? Where is the sound? Is it here? Is it here? Is it there? Is it in your mind? It fills the whole space here. And it becomes part of you. So we're bound together here, as closely as lovers. The Sangha is also an erotic community. So we're looking constantly at questions of boundaries, of how to expand the sense of self, big mind. And it's when we abandon our small self, when we surrender our small self to the reality of this interconnectedness that our practice grants us freedom and liberation. Actually, he says, when working in any position of responsibility, not only as Tenzo, head cook, but as any other officer or assistant, try to maintain a spirit of joy and magnanimity along with a caring attitude of a parent. Okay, so Dogen Zenji says that there are three minds that go along with being Tenzo, or that go along with being an accountant, or that go along with being a cab driver, or go along with being anything. Joyful mind, magnanimous mind, and parental mind. A joyful mind, a joyful spirit, is one of gratefulness and buoyancy. You should consider this carefully. If you had been born into some heavenly realm, you would most likely have only become attached to the pleasures of that realm, taking neither time nor opportunity to awaken the Bodhi spirit, nor would you be likely to feel any particular necessity for practicing. Okay. So he talks about joyful spirit or joyful mind here is intimately connected with gratitude. Okay, so and gratitude is intimately connected with our ability to work. Perhaps some of you know that in Buddhism we talk about the 6 realms into which beings are born: the realm of the gods, the realm of the fighting spirits, the human realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the realm of animals. Did I say that? Anyhow, there's 6 of them. And they all have various characteristics. It's said that the characteristic of the human realm is characterized by 2 things. The human realm is characterized by work and by the capacity for enlightenment. It's only in the human realm that beings experience enlightenment. So our work and our gratitude and our joy are all intimately connected. Work is how we actualize our liberation from the small self. And he says, someplace, therefore, rejoice in your birth into the world, where you are capable of using your body freely to offer food to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Considering the innumerable possibilities in a timeless universe, we have been given a marvelous opportunity. The merit of working as a Tenzo, or a cab driver, or a teacher, or an accountant will never decay. My sincerest desire is that you exhaust all the strength and effort of all your lives, past, present, and future, and every moment of every day into your practice through the work of the Tenzo. To view all things with this attitude is called joyful mind. So when he's talking about exhausting ourselves, what he means, I believe, is bringing everything to this moment, bringing everything into the work we do at this moment with a sense of joy and gratitude. Gratitude for this body and this mind which can do work. Gratitude for the opportunity to offer it. And he says offer to the 3 treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. But we always can have this attitude if we want. And when I think about work, when I was actually thinking about this lecture, I was thinking about work and the work that I do, and it occurred to me that, we don't really earn anything, no matter how much we work. Everything that comes to me as a gift. And my work and what comes to me are actually quite separate. So we receive everything from the universe as a gift. And this ability to work, by the way, exemplifies the moment of choice in the karmic mix. So we are not just creatures defined completely by our past, but the element of free will enters into it as well. Roshin, Japanese word, is the mind or attitude of a parent. In the same way that a parent cares for an only child, keep the three treasures in your mind. A parent, irrespective of poverty or difficult circumstances, loves and raises a child with care. How deep is love like this? Only a parent can understand it. So, he's talking about the mind of a parent, the parental mind, on one side, and that's the loving and nurturing side that takes care of the child at all costs. There's another side that he doesn't touch on that I'd like to bring up, and that's the parent as the sort of stern teacher, the parent as loving but stern teacher. And sometimes we need to be this. I need to be this to myself. For example, if we've made a decision with ourselves, I'll use this as an example, to get up every morning and meditate. When we hear the alarm go off and we just get up without asking whether we particularly feel like it on that particular day, that's where we're being parents to ourselves, stern and loving parents, because that's where. This is very important, because getting up in the morning when we hear the alarm without deciding whether we want to or not on that particular day allows us to practice beyond the limits of personality, preference, and psychology. So we are allowed to practice, we allow ourselves to practice without either like or dislike entering into it. And this is what Dogen Zenji in another place calls dropping away body and mind, which he says is liberation. So when we practice beyond the limits of our personality and our preferences and our particular individual psychology, that's dropping away body and mind. That's liberation. And we can try this on anytime we like. It's easiest to try on in meditation, but, we can try it on at any time in the day. So, I can ask myself, how would it be if for just 1 hour, 5 minutes, I did not let myself be controlled by personality or preference, and this is the way that we are loving parents to ourselves, guiding ourselves to maturity and autonomy. And our spiritual advisors ideally are like this as well. They're guiding us to the place where, as Dogen Zenji says in another writing of his, your treasure store will open of itself and you will use it at will. So this is the function of discipline in our lives, the parental mind. So the magnanimous mind is next. And I'm almost done. Magnanimous mind is like a mountain, stable and impartial. Exemplifying the ocean, it is tolerant and views everything from the broadest perspective. Having a magnanimous mind means without prejudice and refusing to take sides. When carrying something that weighs an ounce, do not think of it as light. And likewise, when you have to carry 50 pounds, do not think of it as heavy. Do not get carried away by the sounds of spring, nor become heavy-hearted upon seeing the colors of fall. View the changes of the seasons as a whole, and weigh the relativeness of light and heavy from a broad perspective. It is then that you should write, understand, and study the character for magnanimous. So magnanimous mind allows each person and thing and situation to develop in its own way. It's not trying to force the seed. It's patient mind. Suzuki Roshi, who founded Zen Center where I practice, said, to control your horse or cow, give it a large pasture. So this is magnanimous mind, to be patient. And particularly I think most of us need to be most patient with ourselves. And he says not to be carried away by the colors of spring or become heavy-hearted when the fall comes. And these are part of what this means is sometimes we're praised, sometimes we're criticized. And the inner balance comes from knowing that these are like the seasons. Our good luck or our bad luck, our health or our ill health, our the approbation of others or their censure. All of these with the magnanimous mind, which is patient, allows them to come and to go. In the Diamond Sutra, which is an important early Mahayana teaching, it talks about the patient acceptance of those dharmas which fail to be produced. And the dharmas in this case are we can say the states of mind or the constituents of reality. And actually all dharmas fail to be produced. Those states of minds we most wish for sometimes fail to be produced. I mean, sometimes I go to the meditation hall in the morning and those wonderful states of mind, compassion, rest, ease, joy, magnanimity, patience are completely absent. And what I get is irritation, anger, sleepiness, and these two are the states of mind which are produced and which must be met with patience and ease. So all dharmas, all states of mind, all constituent bits of reality come and go. In the Heart Sutra, it says that they neither appear nor disappear, and this is actually how we do experience the world, odd though it may sound. So, magnanimity, patience, comes from a clear insight into the empty, luminous nature of all things, which we can experience primarily through meditation. I'll read the last paragraph of this and then I'll shut up. Be very clear about this. All the great teachers down through the ages have learned the meaning of magnanimity, not merely from writing the character for it, but through the various events and circumstances of their lives. Even now we can clearly hear their voices expounding the most fundamental truths and the ramifications of these truths for our lives. They were men whose eyes were open to what is most vital in a life of practice, enabling us to have contact with the Buddha. Their very lives manifested the sole purpose of the true self. Whether you are the head of a temple, a senior monk or other officer, or simply an ordinary monk, do not forget the attitude behind living out your life with joy, having the deep concern of a parent, and carrying out all of your activities with magnanimity. So that's pretty much all I have to say today, and all that Dogen Zenji has to say today. So, if anything that I have said today has been useful or interesting, please accept it as your own. Anything that has been confusing or disturbing, please forgive me for. So, take what you need and leave the rest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll close with the dedication of merit. By the power and the truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity, without too much attachment or too much aversion, and live believing in the equality of all that lives.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.